China has launched a massive strategic retaliation in the trade war with Trump, and your wallet is being hit now and will be getting hit much more. Your wallet is guaranteed to be hit. The United States and China, two of the world's largest economies, are locked in a growing trade war with consequences that stretch far beyond their own borders. Billions of dollars in tariffs, retaliatory measures, and supply chain disruptions are reshaping global commerce. But how did we get here, and what happens next? Welcome back again to another TrendWatch Viral Special Economic Report. TrendWatch Viral, your source for independent, unbiased reporting. Because you don't need to be persuaded, just informed. We report, you decide. Shifting economic power. We are witnessing history in the making. For much of modern history, the U.S. has been the dominant force in global trade. With its economic size, financial institutions, and the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency, America had the ability to set trade policies with little resistance. If the U.S. imposed tariffs or restrictions, most nations had no choice but to comply. But the global landscape has now changed. China, once seen primarily as a low-cost manufacturer, has transformed into an economic powerhouse with a strong industrial base, advanced technology sectors, and a growing influence in global markets. This shift has challenged traditional economic dynamics and led to increasing tensions between Washington and Beijing. Let us now examine how this trade war began. This current phase of the U.S. China trade conflict escalated in 2018 when the Trump administration imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, citing concerns over intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and trade imbalances. The goal was to protect American industries and reduce the trade deficit. But China responded swiftly, imposing tariffs on American exports, particularly agricultural products, automobiles, and manufacturing goods. As the trade dispute intensified, industries on both sides felt the impact, leading to higher costs for businesses, shifting supply chains, and uncertainty in global markets. What has been China's response? Strategic retaliation. Rather than imposing blanket tariffs, China targeted, and is targeting even more so now, key sectors of the American economy. China is diversifying its trade partnerships by increasing business with Europe, Africa, and Latin America, all while reducing reliance on American imports and partnerships. So, who holds the advantage? Initially, many analysts believed the U.S. had the upper hand due to its historical economic dominance. However, China's rapid industrialization, advanced infrastructure, and strong domestic market is allowing them to absorb economic pressure far better than the Trump administration had anticipated. Meanwhile, American companies face rising costs as tariffs on Chinese imports increase prices for materials and components used in manufacturing, technology, and retail sectors. With China's strategic new trade partnerships with other countries, analysts say they are decoupling themselves from the USA. But what exactly is economic decoupling? Is it really possible? Some policymakers in Washington argue that the United States should take their own steps to decouple the U.S. economy from China. They are saying that separating the U.S. economy from China's, known as economic decoupling, will strengthen American industries. However, the reality is far more complex. The U.S. and China remain deeply connected. American businesses rely on Chinese imports for manufacturing, while China has been a major buyer of U.S. agricultural products, automobiles, and technology. As trade restrictions increase, the ripple effects are being felt in nearly every sector. This directly impacts your wallet, your job, and your business. Take a look around your home, your phone, laptop, appliances, and even the groceries in your fridge. Many of these products, or the parts that make them, come from China. And now, more about China's retaliation, how the trade war is hitting your wallet, your life, and American businesses. The U.S.-China trade war isn't just about politics or international competition. It's hitting American wallets, businesses, and industries in ways many never expected. China's strategic retaliatory actions of targeting key sectors of the American economy are slamming down farmers, manufacturers, and impacting everyday consumers. American farmers have long depended on China as a top buyer of U.S. agricultural goods, from soybeans to pork. But when the U.S. imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, China responded with a direct economic strike, cutting back purchases of U.S. farm products and turning to other suppliers. The consequences? Soybean sales plummeted. China was once the largest buyer of U.S. soybeans, but after imposing tariffs, Chinese companies shifted to Brazilian and Argentinian suppliers instead. The result? A surplus of unsold soybeans in the U.S., lower crop prices, and financial strain on farmers. Livestock exports suffered. With Chinese tariffs on American pork and beef, U.S. ranchers lost a major market, forcing them to lower prices domestically. Small farms struggled to survive. Many independent farmers, especially in the Midwest, were already operating on thin margins. Losing the Chinese market meant bankruptcies, farm closures, and increased reliance on government subsidies. For American families, the impact of this goes beyond farming communities. When farmers suffer, so do businesses that depend on them. Equipment manufacturers, trucking companies, and rural banks have all been affected. The result? Lost jobs, reduced economic activity, and a financial strain that spreads across entire communities. But the damage extends even farther. The American auto industry is rapidly heading into a major crisis. China has been a critical market for American automakers, but Beijing's retaliatory tariffs have made it far more expensive to sell U.S.-made cars in China. A 25% tariff on American-made cars has made brands like Ford, Tesla, and General Motors ridiculously less competitive in the Chinese market. This has resulted in rapidly falling sales in China, which has in turn led to production cuts, reducing jobs in U.S. auto plants that depended on overseas demand. So China has shifted to domestic brands. With higher tariffs on American imports, Chinese consumers have increasingly turned to homegrown automakers like BYD and NIO, which specialize in electric vehicles. This shift strengthens China's own auto industry while putting more financial pressure on U.S. manufacturers. In U.S. cities that rely on auto manufacturing like Detroit, the consequences are being felt in reduced work hours, job losses, and significantly lower economic growth. From there, the attack moves on to the American tech industry. Technology is one of America's strongest industries, but China's response to U.S. trade restrictions has thrown major disruptions into the sector. After the U.S. restricted the sale of American semiconductors to Chinese companies, Beijing accelerated investments in its own semiconductor industry. As China develops self-sufficient chip production, American companies like Qualcomm and Intel lose billions in potential sales. And, in response to U.S. policies targeting Chinese tech giants, China has restricted certain American firms from doing business within its borders. Companies that previously relied on Chinese consumers or supply chains are now forced to restructure their strategies, often at great cost. China is replacing U.S. tech with homegrown alternatives. As part of a broader strategy, Beijing is working to eliminate American software and technology from its government and military infrastructure. This means companies like Microsoft, Google, and Cisco are losing a significant share of a massive market consisting of over 1.4 billion consumers. For everyday Americans, this means slower innovation, fewer jobs in the tech sector, and increased competition from China's rapidly expanding technology industry. The effects will be felt directly in your wallet. The loss of major export markets for U.S. farmers, automakers, and tech companies means reduced income for businesses, potential job losses, and slower economic growth. With American companies losing sales in China, many are being forced to raise prices domestically to make up for lost revenue. Cars, agricultural products, and even technology could become more expensive as businesses try to offset lower international demand. As industries like farming, auto manufacturing, and technology take financial hits, workers in these sectors are facing reduced hours, pay cuts, and even layoffs. This puts pressure on household incomes, savings, and spending power. And when major industries suffer, local economies suffer as well because of declining investments. Towns that rely on agriculture or manufacturing could see fewer investments in schools, infrastructure, and public services due to reduced tax revenue from struggling businesses. With less financial security, families will find themselves cutting back on spending, delaying big purchases, or relying more on credit cards and loans, all of which will lead to a weaker overall economy. The longer this trade war continues, the more everyday Americans will feel its impact, not just in the prices they pay, but in their financial stability, job security, and future economic opportunities. Tensions continue, and the consequences of this trade war are still unfolding. But one thing is certain: China's response has been calculated, direct, and highly effective. Will the U.S. double down on tariffs, or will new negotiations emerge? Will China's economy continue to expand at its current pace, or will it face challenges that slow its rise? One thing is clear: the economic rivalry between the U.S. and China is far from over. The decisions made in the coming years will shape international trade, technology, and financial markets for decades to come. Once again, this is Trend Watch Viral, bringing you the facts, because you don't need to be persuaded, just informed. We report, you decide. If you believe that independent and unbiased reporting is good for our society, then please support our channel by liking and subscribing right away. Okay, one last thing. For free access to a brain audio breakthrough recording that until recently was kept hidden from the general public by the rich and powerful, and which can help ordinary people like you and me, regardless of our current situation, to be able to start attracting wealth quickly, please send an email right away to info@trendwatchviral.com with "Attract Wealth" in the subject line before this recording is taken down.